Hey everybody, I can see we've still got some folks trickling in here, so we'll wait a couple more minutes to get started. Definitely see some familiar names here, which is great. So yeah, just in the room today, we've got Tom. I think you guys know Tom at this point from listening to the podcast, or being a Blue Mortgage customer. So Tom and I know each other for maybe like I don't know, probably like five
Yeah.
years or so now. Tom,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
back when
I
I was
think
at Lendesk.
I was going to say back to the Lendesk days, right? So, yeah, that was yeah. I mean, I think and that was back when it was Lendesk, not well, it still is Lendesk, but I don't think the
Yeah,
Finmo thing had happened yet and all that. So,
yeah.
yeah, going back in time a bit. But yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
uh, and then also for those of you who haven't met him yet, Tim Brown is here too. He just joined our team a couple weeks ago. He's been in the mortgage tech ecosystem for a couple decades now, having built some of the original systems, and he just joined our team a couple weeks ago to help us out on the sales side. So some of you guys might be hearing from him afterwards. If any of you guys have further questions about, if you want to, get more information on Ownwell, he'll be your guy. We'll send out some comms after the webinar as well, with a recap and a summary if any of you guys have to leave early. And we'll include all of our contact info there and how to get a hold of Tom and the folks at Blue if you're
Okay.
interested in a demo there.
For sure.
So okay,
Yeah.
we've got a good number of folks here. So let's get started, and then yeah, we'll send out the recording for anyone that couldn't make it. I'll share my screen, and I can kind of kick things off, Tom, and then we can kind of trade back and forth on the
Yeah.
slides here, and
Will
just yeah.
will folks be able to just jump in? Is there audio going or is it all kind of chat based? Still, it'll be more that we can monitor.
Yeah, good question. So what I was thinking, I've got it set up chat based, and the
Okay.
idea would be like, kind of want to get through the presentation pretty quickly, and then save lots of time at the end for Q&A, because that's what I find folks typically
Yeah.
want, at least from these that I've done in the past, is to be able to ask questions. And at that point, we can kind of take folks off mute, and they can either just jump in, or we can rattle off through any questions that have come in over the course of
Awesome.
the presentation. So
Cool.
yeah, I guess everybody, as you have questions, just lob them into the chat. We probably won't answer them all in the moment, but we will definitely get to all of them. I promise. Okay, so the theme of today is beyond the renewal reminder. We're going to go kind of how to create mid-cycle deals. And if you don't know what I mean by that, you will momentarily. But I thought it was great to pair up with Tom for this because many of you that use a CRM are probably using Blue, and if you haven't yet, they should be top of mind. They're, I think, the most popular one in the Canadian market. Tom, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I like to think so, but I think if I'm being honest with myself too, I think yeah, we have a few competitors out there that are doing great things, but I think we've had the advantage of being in the market maybe a little bit longer and doing a few different things. So yeah, I'd say we're one of the leaders at the very least.
And to that point, why I wanted to work with you on this is we kept getting questions from our customers like, "Hey, this is almost great, but like, do you work with Blue? I keep my client data in Blue as my source of truth. Can I use that with Ownwell versus going through my deal submission platform?" And the answer was typically no, or send us an export, and our customer success team will try to process it for you. But now, and we'll show this today, we officially support exporting from Blue directly into Ownwell. And as Tom and I will demonstrate later live, you can export from Blue and then import to Ownwell within a couple minutes and see where all of these deals are in your database. So that's kind of the high level for today. We got this theme of creating mid-cycle deals from your Blue database. Then we're going to show you guys that live. That shouldn't take us more than maybe 20 minutes to get through all that, and then we'll save the rest for questions. Tom, anything you want to say before we get into it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think, probably too part of the punchline for some of these folks here who are on Blue and maybe haven't checked out Ownwell or maybe checked it out. I'm sure some of the questions being asked in their heads are, hey, do I need Ownwell, right? If I have Blue and, transparently we do, as you put here, the renewal reminder type things, hey, renewal's coming up in a few months, let's reach out and do that sort of thing. So, I mean, I think a lot of that presentation is centered around answering that question, right? And I
Yeah.
think the punchline is, absolutely, we have dozens, I think at least, Dan, now that are using both.
Yeah.
very successfully. They work very well together. For us, at least I'll say from the Blue perspective, we're not selfish with our features, right? We look at Dan and Tim and the team over there is doing it Ownwell, and we're saying, wow, that's impressive. They're doing some great things. They provide some great value to brokers. Go over there, do that, get that value there, and we're still going to be here at Blue to bring your data in, be that source of truth to inform these types of tools like Ownwell, right? And that's where it really brings it together. So
Yeah.
I won't go too much deeper. I think a lot of the presentation answers that question, but I wanted to address that off the bat too.
Yeah, perfect. Well, actually, you teed this up perfectly. Let's start there.
Yeah.
The way I thought about this is, Blue knows who your clients are. It's your source of truth, as Tom was saying. And then what we're introducing into the mix is, we're telling you, which of those clients to call and when, basically. So Tom, you can jump in and correct, me,
Yep.
but this is kind of my simple mental model in my head. It's like, you're the system that kind of runs your client relationships. So, it deals with, everything from the first point of contact through to that person, becoming a funded mortgage client and eventually handling their renewal, any of your communication throughout that process, but also your performance reporting. So all the rich reporting that you can want on your database, that's Blue. Where
Yep.
we come into the mix is, okay, as I mentioned, your CRM that handles, getting that lead through to close and beyond. We're in the beyond category. So once you've gotten the mortgage, once they are your client, what we noticed as a gap right now in the Canadian market, at least, is there isn't a whole lot of education or attention put on the homeowner after closing up until renewal time. So we're trying to fill that gap by helping you automatically monitor all of your clients' mortgages, allow you to offer that as a service to those clients. And at the same time, create awareness for your clients about their options on an ongoing basis, because the fact of the matter is 65% of terms don't reach maturity. People are making decisions, they're changing their mortgages, good market, bad market, often due to personal reasons. And that's what we kind of help, bring together. So it's a system. It's not, it's not one or the other. We're not competitors with Blue or in any way. It's complementary.
Yeah. Yeah. And where I get really excited about, Ownwell is I think, there's a ton of noise borrowers are getting, these days, endless noise. And I think probably just going to ramp up with AI and AI marketing and people trying to reach out and find new and creative ways to reach out. And, I think really where the rubber hits the road, how you really start to get in the ear of your borrowers, of your clients, is, putting it in the perspective of what things mean to them, right? It's not just enough to, perhaps just do a generic blast of, hey, this is what's going on in the market or this or that. Prices up, prices are down. Being able to have that very contextual conversation and say, hey, this is you as my borrower, my client. This is what I know about you that no one else knows because we've done a transaction together. And based on that, I'm going to give you very targeted advice, right? That's the signal from the noise, right? There is going to be noise and increasingly so. And so, driving that signal home is, I think, what Ownwell does really well. And that's, again, why we're excited about this partnership.
Yeah, no, thanks, Tom. That's right on. So let's talk about renewals for a minute, because I mentioned that on the intro slide there. Been talking to tons of brokers about the challenges with renewals right now, and based on the research that we've done, it sounds like about 80% of mortgages are renewing with their existing lender. What I think is so interesting about this is, obviously this is such a focus right now, and for good reason, but renewal is that's like the exact moment when the broker is at a disadvantage versus the lender in this whole cycle, right? Because these lenders, they're so well resourced, they are so motivated to get that renewal because they don't have to pay you on that renewal, and this is where brokers are focused right now. And yet, as I said, the incumbent lender just has a structural advantage over the broker. And from talking to brokers as well, we hear, a lot of the time once they've talked to the client and they realize in many cases that client's priority at renewal is just simply the lowest rate, they'll often just refer them off, to the branch at that point, which in those cases makes the most sense. You're not getting the deal this time, but you're keeping the client. I think that's smart. But what I want to talk to you about today is, about 1 in 8 more existing mortgage holders every year experiences a mortgage related event outside of that renewal cycle. So, around 250,000 mortgages a year are changing outside of that renewal window. And that's where the broker actually has an advantage over the lender. So we did a bunch of research on this. We scoured the CMHC data, Canadian Real Estate Association data, and triangulated these numbers. And yeah, the punchline here, the headline number is 1 in 8 existing mortgage holders experiences a mortgage-related event outside of renewal every year. Almost 300K of those are coming from existing mortgage holders buying a new home. Almost 200,000 of those are coming from some other kind of midterm break. And specifically, the biggest reasons for those midterm breaks are, number one, like income disruption or some kind of payment need. Other top ones are like divorce, marriage, death, renovation. So lots of life events basically that's underpinning these numbers here. And I think that's the thing to take away. I think a lot of people think, hey, rough real estate market in some of the larger metros right now, and so people aren't moving. Not the case. Life's happening, guys, and people aren't necessarily thinking, it's not the best time for us to sell. People are having kids, they're getting married, they need more space. All these things are happening, and collectively that represents around 300 billion a year in annual mortgage activity. So these are the deals that I think brokers should be winning because they're actually incentivized to help their client midterm, to help them save money midterm, and the lender isn't. So what the problem though is that what I see today is that most brokers are missing these deals because they're not able to stay relevant enough after closing. So, there's so much attention, obviously, on the client during the transaction. Of course, that's where you're helping them. But all these things that happen afterwards, most homeowners kind of feel like they're left on their own. So let's talk about the reasons why brokers are missing these deals. First of all, for most of you, it's probably not obvious who to call and why. You can't know proactively at scale across your hundreds of past clients, how their lives have changed. And so too often the moment passes. At the same time, clients stay unaware of their options. I think for all of us in this room, this is a kind of a counterintuitive point because we spend our days thinking about this stuff, right? And, we can kind of just, when rates change, we can kind of do the mental math and understand, roughly penalty sizes and, what that means for us in our situation. But consumers in Canada, they've got no idea what's going on with this stuff. They don't know their penalty. They don't know what their equity is. They don't know, if they do know what their equity is, they don't know what that could afford them. Here's a great example. Many people are unaware of the fact that, hey, if they're trying to move up the housing ladder, the fact that it's a down market in BC right now, that's actually to their advantage. Because if they want to move up and they've been saving, that single family home, it's relatively cheaper than it was, even though their townhome has now gone down in value too. So people just aren't aware of their options. And so because of those two things, because it's too difficult for you to just, in your head, know who to call and why, and because clients stay unaware of their options, effectively, when their life does change at some point, too often they don't call the most qualified person. It's typically whoever's in front of them at the time. Maybe it's my uncle who I bump into, at a family get-together who happens to be a mortgage broker. So that's the problem, is missing these deals, and these are the reasons we think that that's happening in the first place. Before I move on to the next slide, Tom, is this resonating with you?
Well, yeah, I think absolutely, right? I mean, I think that, just to kind of layer in all of this, I think is, people are just busy, right? People, you talked about lives are changing and, they just don't have time to do it. So like you said, it's literally, when they need to move or when that life event happens, they're just, scrambling to find the first thing. And yeah, maybe it's the bank, maybe it's that uncle, whatever it might be, they aren't picking up the phone and calling you, right? I don't think that's their first instinct. I think that, for better or for worse, when I talk to a lot of my friends, even the ones who use the broker, they go, hey, maybe they're moving or something. Say, who's your broker? Who did you work with? I forget. It's some guy from somewhere. It's not top of mind because the reality is it's a one-time transaction that happened a few years ago. And, I think, great brokers, and maybe that some of you, I'm going to assume everybody on the call here, do a really good job of building that relationship and go from, hey, I'm not just a transaction, but I'm a trusted advisor and I'm building a relationship with you for the long term. But there are a lot of brokers out there who just view it as a transaction, right? So then you aren't top of mind when these things happen. And it's not just, I think I'd add as an extra point too, it's not just when things happen to the client, right? It's also when things happen to, the client's relatives and friends. My
Mm.
small example is, our happy birthday email. We send that out. It's something that BluMortgage does as a feature. But probably what people love most about it is no one responds. Some people respond and say, hey, thank you. But the most common type of response is, yeah, thanks, whatever. But by the way, I was talking to, so and so at my dinner party yesterday, and they had this weird situation. Like, can you help with that? And, I think getting in front and making sure that the clients aren't unaware, they become aware of, your value and what's going on, can even unlock those types of opportunities. And then that all comes back to what I was saying earlier about, okay, how do you then cut through the signal and the noise when, these borrowers are getting thousands of emails in their inbox, right? So it's
Hmm.
beyond just the client, but also that whole referral network, which is obviously golden if you can tap into it.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know if you've checked this guy out, Tom. Some of the folks in the room might know him, but Wally Elibieri out of the U.S. He's like a
Hmm.
top
Oh,
loan
I think yeah.
officer,
Yeah.
and he's now like an influencer as well. And he's partnered up with HomeBot, which is kind of like the U.S. version of Ownwell that's been around for years. They're a super big company now. But I was attending his webinar a couple weeks ago, and his process is just insane. So like part of his whole ongoing relationship management process includes all these different checkpoints, which are designed to add value to the client, throughout the life of their mortgage, but also they're just opportunities for him to ask for referrals and give referrals as well. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Tom, yeah, like it's been a couple years, let's take you through your options. Oh, by the way, anyone need help right now? Oh, and also, Tom, we haven't talked about your financial plan in a while. Do you have a financial advisor, by the way? Oh, no, you don't. Amazing. Well, actually, like I work
Okay.
with this great one. Would you be interested in meeting them? And then conversely, oh, you do. Amazing. Oh, like I'm always looking for good partners. Like, would you mind
Hmm.
introducing me to them? So
Totally.
that's something that is another, to your point, reason to be checking in.
Yeah.
One
No,
point to make on the awareness piece here. This is something I think pretty sure Dustin Woodhouse said this at I think it was his talk at the BRX summit in
mm,
February. Um, Basically, he did this little exercise that was really cool with everyone in the room where I think he was like, hey, like you know, stand up right now if you want to sell your house right now, or something like that. Like,
mm,
not that many people did, right? Down market in BC. But then he said, okay, now stand up if any of you would, sell your house if you could get like 20% over market or something like that. And like, everyone stood up. And his point was that people are willing to make changes. It just depends on what that is. And so that might be a bit of an
mm.
unrealistic example, but the point is if someone could come to you basically offering something that you didn't know you could get, people are going to be motivated. And we see that all the time. Again,
Mm.
because people are just unaware. So they might not know that they could move up for a single family home, or they might not know that they could save a bunch of money by refinancing right now. And they're just waiting for someone to inform them of their options. And obviously, we're biased, but we think that someone should be you guys. So let's get into solutions now. So this we talked about the problems on the last side, and this is how together we can fix it. So the whole not knowing who to call piece, Ownwell gives you X-ray vision basically into the data in your Blue database. So what it does is it reads that data and it continuously monitors it for potential mortgage opportunities, so that you always know who to call and why. You don't miss an obvious refinance, for example. And the whole lack of awareness piece, we take that data that you have in Blue, we augment it with up-to-date home values and equity values and rates and stuff like that. Then we turn that into these personalized homeownership reports that automatically go to your clients each month, and it educates them on their situation, what their options are, and basically those reports end up generating mortgage conversations and intent. Because again, when people find out that they might be able to do something that they didn't know, they get curious and they contact you. And so the net effect of those two things together, because you're able to continue to add value in a relevant way after closing by monitoring their mortgage for them and by informing them transparently of their options every month through these reports, when their life does change, you get the call because you've been showing up every month, for the past however many months or years with this relevant value for them, and they're seeing your face in that report every month. And so, it helps keep you top of mind because, as Tom was saying, it's an infrequent transaction. It's not like Kleenex where you're going to the grocery store every week and or Coke, whatever. Yeah.
We know Dan's shopping list now. He knows what he's missing. Coke and Kleenex, that's all you need.
Yeah. Pretty Diet Coke, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're one of those. Okay.
I'm one of those. Yeah. Testing the limits of how much aspartame is safe.
Well, I think you have a ways to go from the world. I'm sure I think there's people out there that have like 10 a day, right? So unless you're there, but no, I like it. And I mean, I'm just looking at the bottom right corner there, Dan, when you have that estimate there. And, I think this is a great example of some of the value too, right? Like, I don't know if people on the call, I'm a bit, I don't know, I would say not addicted. That sounds extreme, but I'm always checking like my stocks on my phone. Like I don't know, so often, a couple times a day, I'll say, oh, how's whatever NVIDIA doing today? And it's up. Yeah, I've made $3. Like, whoop-de-doo. But it's exciting. It's that little bit of a dopamine hit. And there's a lot of people like that. But for most people, I think in Canada, let's talk about Canadians specifically, most of their net worth, most of their investments, quote unquote, is in their house, and they're not getting the same thing. And so for someone who's going to get this report and wants that hit, I'm sure they're going to look in their inbox and pull it up once, twice, 3 times. Maybe all they're looking at is that number, but what you get is a nice settled thing where you get your picture and your name right beside it every time, and it's just there, right? And you don't know where that's going to go, but I think that's a real thing. People want to know that. People want to get updated of how their net worth is doing. They want to feel good about those types of things, especially if it's going in the right direction. And if you can be associated with that feeling, that's only going to help you, right? Build that relationship.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm gonna pull on a thread there, Tom, because this is a common question that we get. It's like, okay, well, what if I'm in a region where values are down? I don't want to send bad news to my clients. Couple things about that. Firstly, people appreciate being informed of their situation regardless of what's happening. Yeah. And then what you do with that is all up to you. So the brokers we see get just amazing results with this. They take any question, any comment as a way for them to check in. First of all, find out what's going on in their clients' lives. Like, oh, Tom, you're curious about your home value right now. Oh, why? Oh, actually, you're thinking about moving. Interesting. Or maybe it's I'm just curious, whatever. Or maybe they say, oh, what the heck? My home's gone down, 5%. Is that a problem? And again, opportunity for you to demonstrate your expertise, build trust. Say, oh, actually, no. Short-term fluctuations in home values, it's not a problem. It's not a problem unless you have to sell, right? It's like stocks, you shouldn't be concerned about daily movements in stock prices. But at the same token, as I was saying earlier, if someone's value is down, again, that could be an opportunity, because if they're trying to move up that ladder, that other bigger home has likely gone down in value as well. And as long as they've been saving along the way, that means that it is relatively more affordable than it previously was. So there's lots of conversations that can stem from these values, and people are going to be finding out about this information anyway. Like maybe they're asking ChatGPT, or maybe they're going on House Sigma to find out. So why not have you at the center of that, where you get to kind of, control the narrative, get to demonstrate your expertise versus kind of, losing them to these other portals. So what we want to show you guys today, this is the news as I hinted at the beginning here. Ownwell and Blue now work together. You can export your data from Blue. Tom's going to show you that momentarily. We've also got a nice little help document written up that you can access. We'll share it out later. That goes over this, but basically it's one file that you generate, you export it, you open up Ownwell, you drag and drop it. Our little data import wizard basically runs a series of checks for you. Saving you a bunch of time on review, because it's looking for duplicates. It's looking for people with multiple properties. It's looking for people with multiple mortgages. It's doing all this stuff. And then basically you click import. And then within a couple minutes, you automatically see, what are the opportunities in my database right now? And then within a few days of that, those reports start going out to your clients. So we'll show you how that all works. Tom, why don't I
Yeah,
stop sharing? I'll let you
I'll
you
share
take
mine.
up the share there,
Hmm.
and then I'll take it back and we'll go through the import flow.
Beautiful. Okay, let me try sharing here. Is that coming through okay? Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim too, you nodding. Perfect. Amazing. So yeah, quick view here. What you guys are seeing, this is blue. This is the home page. I think most folks on the call are familiar with it, but very quick overview if you're not. This is your home page, kind of stats, what's going on in blue. Top right corner is kind of settings, things like that. We won't talk about that. And then over here is kind of a menu, different navigation that you can go to. So, we're on the home page now. You can see your mortgages, borrowers, partners, lenders, a whole bunch of stuff there. What we're going to do today is we're just going to create a report. So that's really where you'll be able to really quickly pull the right information here. You can see we've already done a couple tests already ready to go here, but I'm just going to create a brand new one because I just want to kind of show everybody really what's involved and really how simple it is, right? So how this looks is I'm just going to create a brand new report, and it's going to be related to my mortgages, of course. So I'm going to put that in. Now this here, I'm just going to pause for a second. I'm going to do a couple clicks. It might be a little bit confusing, just the way kind of the diagram looks, but it's 2 clicks. And honestly, if things do seem confusing here, Dan and his team, our team, we'd be happy to walk you through it. And we have great articles that literally just say, this is where you have to click, this is what you have to do. So when I'm creating this, I do want to have some related modules. And specifically, the related module that I'm pulling in here is what's called the borrower role. So again, this is maybe that confusing part of it is people say, borrower role, what does that even mean? It just means all the borrowers on the mortgage. So it could be your primary, your secondary, these types of things. It doesn't really matter too much at the end of the day. Again, if all you take out of this is I just have to click this borrower role thing from the drop down, great. And then from there, you hit that plus button again. So again, this is sometimes where people get a little confused, and you just click borrowers. So that's it. Like I said, now you're looking here and saying there's this crazy diagram sitting in front of me. I don't want people to get too hung up on that. It's just a couple clicks, and it's something that we can absolutely guide you through. From there, it gets much more straightforward. We do continue. And then from here, basically what you do is you say, hey, what columns, what data points do I want in this thing? So, the mortgage name, the rate, the borrower's income, what should I actually bring in here? And, when I first started making this report, I was, trying to be very intentional. Okay, we need this field, we need that field. And Dan kind of came in and said, stop, stop, stop. Just give me everything. I'll take it from here. I said, okay, if you say so. And they've done a great job over at Ownwell making it, taking what's necessary, leaving out what maybe isn't so necessary, all in the name of making it easy for you guys. So you don't have to come in here and check off, oh, do I need the brokerage fee? Do I need this? All you're going to have to do is come in here and just do a select all. Really, that's it. Go through, grab every single field related to the mortgage. We're going to do the same thing for the borrower. Pull in every single field. They give me this error just because of my version of Zoho has a lot, but you probably won't get that error. And now I have every single field here. I hit done, and then I'm just going to save this, and I'm going to call it Ownwell. I think I'm at 3.0 now under my mortgage reports. And so now I have this nice, beautiful report with 756 mortgages in it. And then all I'm going to do is come into here, and I can do an export. So I can export that out. Choose, I think it's a CSV, Dan,
You
is the
got it.
best way.
Yeah,
And then I'll
correct.
just hit export. It'll download it, and then that's what you can use over in Ownwell. So pretty straightforward, minus that kind of weird diagram with a few different arrows. It gets pretty straightforward after that. Just grab every column and export it in a nice CSV. So I'll pause there. I don't know if any kind of questions came out in that process, but hopefully it's straightforward as you guys
Yeah,
go and do
and
that.
you guys don't have to remember all this now because when you, well, I'll show you in a minute. When you go to do the import from Blue Path in Ownwell, there'll be a link to this help doc that I mentioned that has step-by-step instructions. And again, if anyone gets confused, they can always reach out to our support team going through that process, and they'll help you out. So no issues there. The other thing I want to point out about those reports that's nice is Tom, if I remember correctly, because you saved that report, you can rerun that report again in the future. So a lot
Totally.
of people
Yeah.
ask me, hey, okay, well, Dan, what should we do? Because we've got new deals funding all the time and I want to bring them in Ownwell. So what I'd say is like literally once a month, you run that little report in Blue, you export it, You upload it into Ownwell. Again, Ownwell is going to recognize all the duplicates. So you don't need to like figure out, hey, who are the new clients and who isn't. You just export all, import all, and the system will do the work for you.
Yeah.
So I'll show you what that looks like now.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Dan. Yeah, like if I were to go to my report, well, you guys saw that when I went into reports. The first time you saw Ownwell, I think it was 2.0 at that point. But if I would have just clicked that, it would have been the same report, and I just have to hit export once. So you
Yeah,
do it once, you do that annoying thing maybe once, and then it's just there every time you need it.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so live demo time. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. You never know, folks. Anything can happen. We're live here.
Yeah.
But this is, when you first sign up for Ownwell, looks pretty dull. There's nothing in here, right? Because I haven't added any data yet. So let's change that. We're going to go to import up here. By the way, if you wanted to just see, how this works before doing an import, you can just add a dummy client yourself, but manually, that's there for you. But we want to get in your whole database from Blue. Okay, select Blue. Again, we explain here, exactly what Tom just went through. If you want to see our full guide, click the link, and it goes into this in some detail. We'll proceed to the next step here and upload that CSV file that Tom just generated. So I'm literally going to drag and drop that into Ownwell. I'm going to click continue. Now, what's going to happen in the background here is it's reading this Blue data and doing a bunch of math. And by default, it's only going to bring in those clients whose mortgages haven't yet matured. The reason for that is those are your highest priority clients for ongoing follow-up because, one, you have enough of their most recent term data for Ownwell to generate all of its estimates. And then secondly, these are people that are going to be facing a decision at some point in the next few years. So you want to stay in front of them. Now, there's ways that we can bring in past clients and past prospects as well. But for most brokers, we want to start with those clients in active mortgages, which is what we've got here. So again, you don't have to do that work to figure out who those people are. You upload it all, our system does it. The other thing it's looking for is potential errors. So I can see here there are no errors, but there are 2 warnings. So let's check out those warnings. And again, we were trying to do this data review for you so that you don't have to do it yourself. Okay, so I'm going to hover over this little yellow warning here and see, okay, street type fifth was not recognized. Please review. Okay, so addresses can be a little bit finicky. There are lots of ways of expressing, different components of an address, and, a lot of them aren't standardized. So it's telling us here that fifth isn't recognized. We're just going to change this to 5 and see if that error goes away. Okay, it did. Great. Okay, no more errors, no warnings. Ready to import. So let's do it. I can see everything here.
And as this is going, I'll just make a comment here too. I mean, I think what Dan's done is maybe, incorporated some of the, I don't know, mistakes we learned by trial and error, right? We used to, way back in the day when we started Blue, people would get their, I don't know, Logix data. That was the most common one. And sometimes it wouldn't be the cleanest. And we would just kind of load it in there and hit go and cross our fingers and close our eyes. And 8 times out of 10, maybe it wouldn't be perfect. And there'd be a bunch of cleanup afterwards. And people would be kind of scared. Hey, or, my client's receiving emails when maybe they shouldn't because they aren't in the right stage. And, luckily we learned from those hard lessons. But, looks like Dan's done that, in a really nice way too. A really nice way to kind of go through and understand these types of things. So, it just gives you that confidence that, hey, as you start doing this, it's going to be, not doing the things that people get scared of, which is, sending emails to the wrong person or whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point, Tom, one thing I want to just mention, because it's a common question we get, is it's like, hey, how do I choose which clients to bring in? And we say, look, first of all, don't try to cherry pick because it's impossible to know who's going to be, one of those 1 in 8 people that experiences a mortgage need this year. You might think you can predict. You might say, oh, I only want to see those people who are in high rates right now. It might be true that those people are more likely to have a reason to refinance, but you don't know about, Jesse and Josh here who are having a second child, or, you don't know that Jason is actually looking to start a business and might want to take out some equity. So don't try to predict. Import your entire database. That being said, why we built it out in this way where you can see everything and pick and choose who to bring in is, some people say, actually, this client, Scott, was an absolute nightmare. I never want to work with him ever again. Okay, don't bring Scott in, deselect it. So you've got control here over who to bring in and who to not bring in. Also, this is kind of a handy thing over here on the right. Yeah, you can have a flag to, import all of the borrowers on the file or only primary. Um, where this gets relevant is if you want those homeownership reports to go out to say both the husband and the wife. Amazing. That happens by default. But let's say, for example, if you only wanted to bring in the primary borrower, you can have that setting set automatically. So you just toggle that little flag there. So I've reviewed my warnings. I can see everything here. I've decided not to bring in Scott because he was a nightmare to work with, but everyone else we're going to move forward with. And then
Nightmare clients don't exist, do they, Dan? I've never heard of such a thing. Yeah.
I think I'm one of them. We're actually in the middle of moving, as I said right now, Tom, and boy, put our realtor through the ringer on this one.
You're you're a nightmare client. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I know the problem with me is I think I know a little bit about the industry. So I'm asking all these questions and trying to tell him how to do his job. It's
okay,
brutal.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you're getting unselected from his Ownwell report. That's right.
100%. Yeah. So we clicked import. What's happening here is Ownwell is taking in all of that blue data that you just saw, and then behind the scenes, what it's doing is it's pulling fresh home values for all of those clients. It's doing the penalty math on all those clients. It's looking up like what the historical posted rate on your TD 5-year fixed files, for example, and then it's also looking at the market rates and computing a bunch of potential refi or switch or purchase scenarios. So that's what's happening in the background. If I have not chosen not to import a particular client here, it's going to say so, which it has, which is great. It goes through how much capacity I have left in my plan. If I wanted to, purchase more client capacity here, I can. Now, because this is a live demo and I promised anything could happen, it seems that my mouse has gotten disconnected from the Bluetooth. So we're going to stay paused here for a little longer than I would have expected as I try to reconnect my Bluetooth. And, if it doesn't reconnect, I'm going to have to jump up and grab my other mouse, which is charging off the side here. Okay, we're reconnected apparently. So let's bear with me a couple more seconds here. Oh, here we go. We're back. Okay, so dancing a little bit here. But anyway, this looks like this is done. So let's check it out. Let's see what we got.
The webinar gods are unforgiving, eh?
Yes. So this page looks a little bit different now. It's got this rich list of client data. And you can see all my files here. You can even see, who can save money right now, who's got payment relief, who's got accessible equity, who's got buying power. But rather than dig through this list, you can actually see that over here in the top left-hand corner. The system is saying I've got 15 opportunities. Oh, okay, let's check that out. All right, these are the files that the system has flagged as having potential mortgage opportunities right now. These are people who, for example, can save interest net of penalties. And that's after penalties, closing costs, et cetera. The system's done all the math for them. You can click into it. You can see the switch scenario in this case over here on the right. You can see the cost breakdown, and you can now touch base with this client. They're going to receive a report from you anyway, their homeownership report, which I'll show you in a second. But what our best performing brokers are doing is they're not treating this as a set it forget it tool. They know that those homeownership reports are great for generating engagement, but they also know that sometimes homeowners need a little bit of a nudge. They might not recognize, for example, just how significant a savings 8K is over the remaining, however many months of the term in this case. So what you can do is you can generate this. It's pulled in all the math for you, and then you can just send it to them, or send them a text or phone call, however you like to keep in touch with your clients. The idea here, though, is that this solves that problem of not knowing who to contact and why. Now I've got a very clear reason to contact these individuals. Betty can save, about $800 a month right now if she was to switch out of her TD, mortgage and get a lower rate. So those are your opportunities. And then at the same time, what's going to start happening is these clients are going to start getting their homeownership report from you within your first week of adding them to Ownwell. Let's just pick up an example here so you see what that looks like. We'll go with Henry Homeowner. If I click on his name, you'll see a preview of exactly what Henry is going to get. This is his report. It updates every month with fresh data. And if you want to see the data underlying these numbers and potentially make any changes, you can click on this details tab. And this is where, the information from Blue lives. So, it's pulled in the income, for example, the contact information, the address, of course, and, importantly, those original mortgage term details. All of this stuff you can edit if you need to. And one thing I want to point out here with the mortgage data that a lot of people aren't aware of, this is kind of cool. We know that these penalties are a bit of a nightmare. One of the reasons is that obviously in your deal submission platform, you wouldn't know what that discount on Scotiabank's posted rate was in this case. But we built a system that basically tracks all those historical posted rates. So we see that rate come in from Blue in this case at 6% for the Scotia 5-year fixed from November 2023. We know that their rate, posted rate for a 5-year fix at that time was 7.04. So we know what the discount was. So that's just something that happens automatically. And, that then feeds into the IRD penalty estimate that we generate here. So you can see all this data, it's at your fingertips. I won't go any deeper now, but that's how within 5 minutes, we exported your data from Blue. Super easy to create that report. And again, as Tom said, you can just run that anytime you want to. We did an import here. And then within a couple minutes of doing that import, you can see exactly, who's a good candidate for a switch or a refi right now. And then you'll see what your clients are going to start getting in those reports within the next week.
Dan, what do you say? I mean, I think it's super tough. So maybe just rule of thumb. So if you load it up in this case, I don't know if this was a cherry pick data set, 21 folks, and then, hey, 15 opportunities. That seems pretty good, right? 3/4 of my clients, maybe there's an opportunity. Are you seeing that? Is 75% the rate? Is it higher, lower? What's it usually? Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that question because we just pulled a query from the database yesterday to see out of all the tens of thousands of mortgages in Ownwell right now, how many have a savings opportunity or how many can access equity by refinancing. The numbers were surprising to me. So this is across all of our customers and of course their clients. 24% of mortgages in our system right now can profitably break their mortgage, meaning
wow.
Interest saved over the remainder of the term, even after factoring in the penalty, 24% of them can save money right now, which is wild. And again, that's why I'm so jazzed about this for brokers. I'm like, you are not competing against lender for that, right? They are not making their client aware of that opportunity.
They don't want them to know. Yeah,
they don't want them to know. You can be that person that tells them about that. Some other numbers, 46% have enough equity to actually take equity out, i.e. like they qualify for a refi. So like example, Suzanne here, let's just check out her numbers over here on the right. Of all of the equity that she has in her home, so she has, she's got a lot of equity, but based on the ratios and what she could actually qualify for, she can take out 36K of that if she wanted to put that into, say, a reno or to an investment. And then, but what I'll say about that, Tom, and for anyone that's curious, is obviously those savings opportunities are going to be heavily dependent on kind of whether or not you did significant business in 2023 or 2024, because that's when fixed rates were so much higher.
Yeah, they're high.
For example, let's say you're newer to the industry and you kind of came on the scene in 2025, you're not going to see the same number of opportunities. But why I am so excited about what we've built here is I'm going to jump back into this opportunities tab. You'll notice this most engaged category down here. Right now, it's empty because my homeowners haven't received their first reports yet. But as they receive their reports, the system is going to start to track, hey, how are they engaging with the reports? Who's opening this? Who's clicking on it? Who's clicking the calls to action? Who's updating their income? Who's doing this or that and the other thing? And we'll surface to you those clients of yours who are the most engaged. And what we've learned from talking to our customers about these most engaged clients is, first of all, these aren't clients that necessarily have any obvious mortgage opportunity. And we see it all the time. So let's say, it's somebody who is multiple years away from their renewal, can't save money right now. And you'd think, okay, well, why should I call this person? But we can see that they are like highly, highly engaged. And what we've learned from talking to our customers is sometimes it's those people who are contemplating a move. So even if you're a newer broker saying, well, why would I use this? Because, none of my clients can be able to save money right now. It's that engagement that is key. Because again, these are things that are happening in people's lives regardless of whether it makes the most economic sense, people need to make changes. And this kind of puts you ahead of that conversation.
Yeah, and of course, Dan, it also comes back to, the theme at the beginning of, from the get-go, talking about maybe new brokers here, saying, hey, I'm not just going to be a transaction. I'm going to be, the phrase we always use at BluMortgage is we need to evolve as an industry from transaction to trusted advisor. There's a bit of an alliteration there, right? So if that's a mindset you want to have as a new broker from day one, then, these tools become obvious, right?
Yeah.
Versus if you are just viewing it as a transaction, then maybe not. But I think, again, we talked about, I honestly believe that's where the industry needs to go. Not just, hey, here's your mortgage, see you later. It's like, hey, I'm going to be a partner with you in your overall financial journey because, again, as we talked about, home ownership and the equity that you have, and that is, a huge part of Canadian finances. So if you can guide them through that, you're also guiding them through their overall financial picture, right? And you can be that trusted advisor.
For sure. And actually, you reminded me of something that I think is important. I learned this from one of our customers, Krista Lindstrom, out of Alberta.
We work with Krista
business.
too. Yeah,
she's amazing. She's started to include this in her discovery calls. So what she'll say pretty early on is, hey, when you work with me, I pay for this subscription to Ownwell for you. And what it does is it ensures that you're never going to be overpaying on your mortgage because you and I are both going to be able to monitor it. You're going to be, made aware on a monthly basis of what your situation is, and I'm available to help you if anything comes up. And oh, by the way, that's not something you can get when you work with a bank directly because they're not incentivized to share this data with you because they don't make money from you making changes. On the other hand, though, that's exactly how I build my business is by helping my clients on an ongoing basis. So they kind of use that as a kind of like a little hook early in the discovery call, which I think makes a ton of sense. So I'll skip back to the deck here and we can wrap things up and get into some questions. I'm not going to go through all my remaining slides because I know we're coming up on time here. But quickly, just want to share the ROI from our customers that have really leaned into this has been amazing. You can see some numbers here from some of our customers who shared their results with us. Take Amanda. She's gotten 10 transactions she attributed to the system from 75 past clients. Pretty incredible. So you don't have to have a massive database to get real value out of this. In summary, how I'm thinking about this is, this whole client for life idea that Tom, thought about. You got to have your CRM. That's your source of truth. That's how you ensure that you can communicate with your clients over time. And then layer us on top because it's going to help you find those mid-cycle deals. Whereas I said, I don't think you have the same kind of competition as you do at Renewal. So for everyone that signed up today, we've got an offer here. On the Ownwell side, for anyone that attends today that isn't an Ownwell customer yet, enter code BLUE at checkout. If you're subscribing to an annual plan, we'll waive the one-time setup fee. We do live onboarding with everybody multiple times a week, and we also got monthly training now as well for any new features that are coming out. We're sharing those live and answering questions. So that's what we've got for anyone that's interested in signing up for Ownwell. And then Tom, you want to take it away for anyone that's interested in checking out Blue?
Yeah, for sure. I think for this, pretty straightforward. We'll probably keep it open till the end of the month. So again, that's about a week or so, a bit less. But yeah, free month. That's something that we're excited to do, happy to do. It gives you a chance to hopefully, get some of your data into Blue, and then, as we showed today, in just a few clicks, get that into an Ownwell ready format that can quickly be uploaded and used there. So yeah, I think between the two, really good opportunity to get some real value and at least try these systems out, right? I think at the very least, for a lot of people looking at, for Blue or Ownwell or whatever it might be, sometimes there's hesitation around cost or this and that. And, I think we're in a part of the market where things are quite dynamic and a little bit uncertain for some people, whether it's technology and AI or new compliance or down market or whatever it is. And I think now is exactly the time where brokers need to not rethink completely, but start being a little bit experimental, right? Start going out there and saying, hey, the thing that worked for me in 2021 is not going to work for me in 2026. We know that, right? The market's not the same. The technology's not the same, right? Everything's changed. And so, hey, let's recognize that and, make some changes in my business accordingly, right? So that's would be my call to action for anyone who's maybe on the fence a little bit.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So we've got about 10 minutes remaining here. I'm just going to open up the chat and see some what questions that we have. So, okay. It looks like Chris has a couple questions here. I'll read them out. Okay. So what if I have imported some clients into Ownwell? If I do a full report import, it sounds like Ownwell's intelligence will know not to import it. Okay, so Chris, if your concern is, will we re-import the same clients? No, we know that brokers are using multiple systems. They've got their deal submission platform. They've got their CRM, and when we import a homeowner record into our system, regardless of where it came from, we basically create a little fingerprint, you can think of it, based on who that homeowner is, what their address is, and what their mortgage is. So you do not have to be worried about running an export from Blue and importing it into Ownwell, because Ownwell will already know who from your Blue database might already be at Ownwell. And then your second question, I like this question. Can I buy extra seats in real time if I need to top up? Absolutely, you can. So in that import screen, I didn't highlight it, but there actually is a little button where it'll show you, first of all, where you're at with your client capacity, and if you need to buy more, you can do so directly yourself in real time in the app. I love this last question here. This is we should I need to publish a little playbook on or help article on this, because this is really good. When a client renews their mortgage, we have to manually update both Ownwell and Blue, or do we update Blue and export to Ownwell? Okay, this is great. This is admittedly a bit of a gap in our product right now, because currently you would have to do both. What we also do in Ownwell, though, is we prompt the client when their mortgage renews. We prompt the client for their up-to-date term details. So the client is able to directly within their homeownership report update their mortgage info. And at renewal, we pop up a little alert to them that says, hey, it looks like your mortgage may have recently renewed. To make sure you can keep receiving up-to-date insights from us, just update your details here. So they can do that themselves, but I would definitely recommend in the short term, when you get that updated agreement from the client, and you should definitely get it, even if they just renew with their lender, and they're not refinancing in the short term, get that, because you want them to continue receiving Ownwell from you. You want their data to be up to date in Blue, because as we talked about, this is this is a whole journey that you're on with them, right? They're going to transact multiple times over the course of their homeownership journey. And for this term, might make sense for them to renew, but they'll remember that. They'll remember that you gave them good service and advice. And when that next question comes up, we want them to reach out to you. And one of the ways that we help ensure that happens is by ensuring that they're getting these reports from you. So great question, Chris. And we've got it on our roadmap to make that update process a bit cleaner, so it's not doing duplicate effort.
Yeah, I think that's good. And at the end of the day, right, it's all about how you position it. You could do the Krista thing, right, where it's just, hey, listen, go to your lender, that's great, but let me know what rates you get and the terms of that rate and whatever else, so I can monitor for savings opportunities, right? It's
totally.
It's at the end of the day, it's something I wanted to mention earlier, but I think it's relevant here too, which is there's this Gary Vee thing. If people know Gary Vee, he's one of these New York marketing guys. He's got some good stuff. Anyways, he talks about you have to give 3 or 4 times before you do an ask, right? So, give, and then ask. And, it fits in with all this, right? You're giving a report, you're giving them an opportunity for you to monitor savings on their behalf, and give. And then when it comes time to ask for a referral or whatever it might be, it's a much cleaner conversation. Just because at the end of the day, humans are reciprocal in nature. They want, if you are giving something to someone, they usually want to return the favor. And so if this can be one way you do that, another give that you can give your clients, makes that ask at renewal time or at referral time that much easier.
Love it. Yeah, 100%. Well, we still have a few minutes if anyone else has questions. Those are great ones, Chris. Really appreciate those. If anyone else has questions, just fire them into the chat here. And if not, we'll close it out in a couple of minutes, and then Tom and I will send out a follow-up email for everyone, whether you're able to attend or not, with the details. And if you're curious about, getting a demo or anything like that, we'll include those links there as well.
Absolutely.
But it seems like that's it. So thank you, Tom, for doing this with me. Likewise. I know it's been a long time coming for us to be able to import from Blue, but you're patient with us. Appreciate it.
Totally get
And
it. No, and appreciate you setting this all up, and excited. I think it's just the first step of many, in the partnership together. We're excited to, get this part, you know, used by real clients, and I think there's going to be quite a few coming out of this webinar. So I'm excited to see that, and just where this partnership goes. So thank you.
yeah, you bet. Okay, thanks everybody. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. And yeah, we'll see you on Ownwell and in Blue. Take care.
Yeah, you bet. Yep.